Jeffery Sachs is one of those excellent economists the world has seen, and he really has got all kind of proposals on Africa's economic growth. He visited Uganda some time back, and I recall, I think, possibly meeting him with Dr. Kaseke, the then deputy governor of the central bank. He has been talking about China, and saying Africa may be the next big thing. There has been a lot of talk about it is Africa's time, and I'm telling you, it will not be, not in the very near future. Professor Sachs is saying China made it in 40 years, and he thinks that this is 2024. By the time the OAU, or the African Union, which came after the Organization of African Unity, is 100 years, possibly Africa could see the transformation that China has seen. But of course, he points out a number of very important things which are constraints. China is one country. Africa has got 56 countries. China has a high degree of homogeneity, which Africa doesn't have. We have so many languages. We have the Francophone countries. We have the Anglophone. We have the Arab North. We have this powerful South Africa. All these differences bring out the fact that Africa may not go the way China has gone. The other difficulty Africa has is we've been manipulated by our colonial governments. We've been manipulated. We are not able to do much. We right now, when you look at the loans that we are getting to support our activities, for instance, Uganda's budget, possibly about 50%, is funded by loans. And we export goods worth $2 billion, and we import goods worth $6 billion. And the IMF supports us. That's good. I mean, you look at all these goods on the streets everywhere in the country. Very good entrepreneurship, but it's based on loans. And what's going to happen in the future is that our governments will not have capacity to run, because they'll be collecting taxes to pay loans. So I'm afraid, Jeffrey, that this may not happen in Africa. The reasons I've mentioned, but more specifically, the slave trade dehumanized Africans. They fear themselves. Yes, they're coming out, but not yet. To colonization, when you see that Europe sat somewhere in Germany and distributed Africa to themselves, meant we are very vulnerable and very weak as a country, as a continent. So what happened at that time was that the colonial government simply came and took resources. We get independence, and what happens? Well, out was the colonial governments, but in was the multilateral institution, the IMF, World Bank, helping us with our economic policy. And this economic policy has not supported African growth. It continues to support extraction of resources from these countries, which go to be produced elsewhere abroad. So we export jobs, and we import all these kind of silly things that we see on our streets, including old clothes, used clothes. And of course, we can't afford new vehicles. We even import used vehicles, which I think is more realistic with what our level of production. So I don't think Africa will be able to grow, use like China has done in the last 40 years, unless if the following things are in place. One, BRICS is successful. BRICS is successful. Chances of Africa being successful may be right. Two, if China keeps its word and keeps its markets open to African countries, if we can develop, if we can export goods like we've not been doing at the moment, because we export unprocessed goods. Can we export goods that have value addition? Meaning, can we have the jobs in our countries? That's going to make a change in Africa. The other one is improving the trade relationships. If BRICS countries can allow Africa to export value-added items, they'll be attempting to create a level playing ground in trade, which we actually need if Africa is going to grow. And if we are able to understand what we need in the country in terms of putting emphasis on science. I mean, if you know how many engineers in China, how many scientists in China, you'll be amazed. There's no way anybody else in this world is going to compete with China with this number of scientists. I mean, they have now advanced in AI, but 80% of your people live in rural areas. They still use a hoe, the traditional hoe. There's no way Africa is going to develop if we are still in the pre-first industrial revolution era. So Africa needs to get competitive by adopting science, by starting its own businesses, by having that bit of freedom from the developed countries to do things that really should enable them to create value, and when they export it, they actually get value out of it. So the other is, can Africa come together to negotiate? 53 countries, different languages, and we are manipulated by our colonizers. If we can come together and have a common voice, I think, Jeffery Sachs, I must thank you very much, because one of the things you said, can Africa have a seat on the G7, G20? Just have but it doesn't make sense if you sit there but you cannot coordinate internally. If you cannot work together as African countries to have one simple thing, that let's agree on, we will not export resources where value has not been added. I think these are issues. Can we come together through the African Union? If we can, we'll be moving towards development. Can we stop exporting raw materials? If we can, we will be moving towards development of our people. Otherwise, and can we have science as one of the basic things in our countries? If we do that, then we will be moving in the right direction. Otherwise, my feeling is that we will not achieve much. Africa, 40 years later on, will still be poor. If for the last 60 years in Uganda, we've been using a hoe as a basic implement of production, and the poverty I see increasing around us, we'll never do it.